Hello, everyone. This is your host, Mae Renfroe, and welcome back to another episode of Mighty Monday. And here on Mighty Mondays, we talk to real people with real stories, with a real hope and faith in God, who redeems and restores and makes all things new. In sharing these, we can give others that hope and encouragement for their journey. And so today, on this episode, I am honored to have my guest, Ashley Gruman, on with me. I'm excited. And Ashley is a speaker, published writer, and mom passionate about helping women find peace and purpose in motherhood. She encourages moms to let go of comparison, trust God's timing, and embrace the friendships that make the journey joyful. So, Ashley, welcome today to this episode.
Thank you. I'm so glad to be here and I'm excited to kind of share my story.
Good, good. Well, I am too. I'm
Um,
I'm excited to have what you're going to share. And so, if you wanted to introduce yourself anymore and tell us what you are going to be talking about.
sure. So I am a mom of three. I have two girls and one boy. I have been married to my husband for, oh my gosh, it feels like forever. We met when I was 10 years old. So
Oh, wow.
sometimes it gets a little muddled. Um, we,
Wow.
yeah,
That's
so
interesting.
we've been married for 13 years.
Okay.
But yeah, we've known each other since childhood, which is kind of a fun
That's interesting. That's really
thing to tell
interesting.
people. But yeah, so I started off, both my parents are in ministry,
Yeah.
and I just kind of naturally fell into it once I got a little bit older, but it took a long time to get there. I feel like when
Mm-hmm.
you grow up
Mm-hmm.
in the church, it's very natural to kind of wander and then
Mm-hmm.
come back.
Mm-hmm.
That's very
Yeah.
much my story.
Yeah.
So I think that my journey has kind of led me to where I'm at, and I'm really, really grateful to be able to share some of that today.
Yeah. Oh, good. Good. Oh, that's a unique story with when you had known your husband since you're so childhood friends, I guess, that your families knew each other.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's
Well, yeah, we met.
yeah.
We met because his friend brought him to church, the church that I went to. And so we just kind of started hanging out from there. We didn't date until we were adults, but we've known each other.
Yeah.
So some
Yeah.
of that, like getting to know the parents, was kind of easy because I
Yeah.
already knew them.
Yeah. Yeah,
So
for sure. Oh, okay. So yeah, what would you really like to share in this one? Did you have a bit of a background story of
sure.
where
Yeah.
you're at in this?
So I would say kind of what I like to share the most is kind of how I got into ministry and how that kind of started what I'm doing now. So back in 2014, when I started having babies,
Mm-hmm.
I
Okay.
really was like, I know that the Lord wants to use me in some way. And my thought was that he was going to use me once I kind of got X, Y, and Z cleaned up in my life.
Mm-hmm.
And it really took until my second was born in 2016 for me to learn that that's not actually the case, that God doesn't need you to be perfect in order to be
Mm-hmm.
used,
Okay.
right? He is going to use what you got. And sometimes he lets us go through things in order to be able to
Mm.
use
Mm-hmm.
us.
Yeah.
And, and it took a lot it it took a lot for me to learn that, and a lot of
Mm-hmm.
different things that I thought, which now I realize were like just prideful things. But there were so many things that I thought I could kind of fake it until I made it. And I was like, well, if I, you know, hide these parts of my life, that then I would look better, and then people
Mm-hmm.
would listen to me more because I looked put
Mm-hmm.
together and I
Mm-hmm.
sounded like I had all my ducks in a row. But that wasn't the case. And so, really, the Lord had to kind of sit me down and be like, if you don't be vulnerable, like, no one's going to listen to you. And so, it took me joining a mom's group and sitting with different women and hearing from other people that their lives weren't perfect. And motherhood is actually hard and isn't what social
Mm-hmm.
media is you it is.
Mm-hmm.
For me to really be able to finally kind of like put the walls down and be like, okay, well, actually, yeah, my life is hard and
Hmm.
motherhood is hard, and really kind of let the Lord use some of those people that he put in my life to finally be like, okay, well, this is my journey to start being vulnerable with people. And it's not easy to do that because no one wants to be the person who goes first. Says,
Hmm. Hmm.
that especially with motherhood, like
Yeah.
no one wants to sit down and go, wow, this is actually harder than I thought it would be, because that's not what society tells you. Like
Hmm.
you as a woman, like you get married, you have you have babies, and
Hmm.
life is fruitful and wonderful, and that is, it doesn't always feel that way. Yeah. So really, once I joined that mom's group, I felt the Lord kind of pulling at me like, you should get more involved in this. This is
Hmm.
something that you should kind of be more a part of. And I was like, oh, I just don't know. Oh, I
Hmm.
don't know if that's what I want to do. And I feel like in my life, I mean, throughout my whole life, there have been so many things where I have that attitude where I'm like, oh, that just doesn't sound like something I really want to do. And God is like, oh, we'll get you there. And so,
Oh,
um,
that's funny. Yeah.
so this is very much like me starting to speak and starting to write is very
Okay.
much that when I joined this mom's group in
Yeah.
2016, I said, I'm happy to help out in different ways, to be a volunteer, to be on leadership. I'm happy to do that. I never want to have a microphone in my hand. I don't feel like that's something I'm comfortable with. It's not something I really ever want. And by 2021, I was leading this group and had a microphone in my hand every other week.
Wow. Yeah.
And
Wow.
and so it just kind of progressed where I feel like the Lord just had to work through different things in
Yeah.
my heart for me to get to that point.
Yeah. Oh,
And
neat.
so I led that group for 5 years, and then at the beginning, at the beginning of 2024, I really started to feel the Lord be like, okay, so now we've gotten you comfortable speaking in front of people, and now I want you to share your story and really help, especially like moms, figure out how to navigate motherhood while also having friends, but also knowing that sometimes like the Lord's timing is going to look different than what
Hmm.
our assumption of it is.
Hmm.
Um, and I felt so ill-equipped for it because I was like, okay, but I don't really even know who my friends are. I don't even really know what your plan for me is. I'm not
Hmm.
seeing clearly like
Hmm.
the path that you have set for me. He was like, all right, well, we'll get you there, and that just kind of seems to be like the kind of theme of like my adult life is God
Hmm.
is like, okay, well, you just need to trust me and
Hmm.
trust that I'm not going to let you fall. Like you will stumble, but I am not going to let you fall.
Hmm.
Um,
Oh, wow.
and so, yeah, it's been a very interesting journey because I
Hmm.
feel like, um, my weaknesses really disqualified me.
Hmm.
And the Lord really just had to show me that actually they're like my bridge to people, to connecting
Yeah.
with people,
Yeah.
to helping women feel less alone. That's something
Oh,
that I've always really been passionate about,
yeah.
is kind of being that person who's like, oh, you don't know where to sit. Perfect. I have a seat for you.
Yeah. Oh,
Um, so yeah, that's kind of
oh,
how
I
that
like,
started for me.
yeah, I really like that because like what you said, your your weaknesses are things that you just wanted to kind of keep under, cover and just be like, oh no, it's all good. But then you can't relate to the woman that is struggling, and that's because we're all there. I mean, you were, everyone has that. But if we act like we're not in that, how does the other woman, relate? And when you be real, then it's like, oh no, well, they can feel that closeness and really relate, and you can really then kind of help them or reach them more, right?
Right.
Otherwise, they're gonna feel like
Right.
you're way up here, they're down here, or whatever,
Yeah,
and they're not even
exactly. I mean, and
close.
we've
Yeah.
all felt that way,
Yeah.
right? There are
Yeah.
people when you walk into a
Yeah.
room, you're like, ooh, I don't think we could be friends because
Yeah.
you clearly know what you're doing and
Yeah.
I do.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. So I like to be, so God had to really kind of get you to open up and to be real and to be honest where you were in that. Yeah. And then that's where your
Mhm.
ministry started.
Yep.
Wow. Because you were about 5 years in that. And then what shifted from that though?
So I I mean, honestly, I was given an opportunity to speak um, at a conference to like women ministry leaders,
Mm-hmm.
and that kind of got this all started for me, where
Mm-hmm.
I was like, it's nice to be able to talk to this group that I have, and run these meetings, and this is great, and I'm helping people build connection and stuff like
Mm-hmm.
that. But I just kind of felt like the Lord was like, okay, so we got your feet wet. Like you kind of, that fear of speaking in front of people is gone.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
now I want you to let me use it in
Mm-hmm.
a different way. Um, and so I spoke at this conference and had good feedback from it. And, it's one of those things when you first speak in front of a group, especially when you don't know anyone, it's much easier to speak in front of people because
Mm-hmm.
it's easy to make eye contact, kind of who to look for and
Mm-hmm.
what they need to hear. But
Mm-hmm.
when you're speaking in front of women who do not know, it's just a very different experience. And so I felt like I had to prepare differently. I felt like I was really trying to gear myself up to be kind of this like perfect persona of leadership and whatever. And like the night before, I just felt really convicted about it because it was like, this is not what I set you up for. Like, if
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to give you this opportunity, you
Yeah.
still need to
Yeah.
be real with people.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and
Okay.
so
Oh.
so I really had to just kind of lean into that. And I walked in and I was like, I don't have everything figured out, but I will let you know what I have done that works, what
Yeah.
God has done through me. And, just really had to pray that even if there was one woman who learned something or the
Yeah.
spirit talked to her through me, then that makes it all worth it.
Yeah.
It's quality over quantity. And I feel
Yeah,
like
for
that's
sure.
something
Yeah.
that God has had to remind me of over and over.
Wow. Oh, that is so good. Yeah. The perfection, I guess, isn't right. I think it can be a hang up, but just being real and then God speaks through that. And oh, that's wonderful. Like now you're speaking to those that you would get help the woman that is overwhelmed or trying to find peace and purpose in their what are some things that you would share and speak to her that would
Sure.
help her where she's at right now.
Yeah. Yeah. So I would say first and foremost, just really truly being like honest with God about where you're at,
Hmm.
whether you're looking for friends, whether you're trying to find your purpose, or even just like trying to figure out what to do next, wherever you're at with your motherhood journey and things like that. The number one advice I give to people is you need to be on your knees and honest with God about what your hopes are, what your dreams are,
Hmm.
because He
Hmm.
cares about all of that.
Hmm.
He cares about, the things that you're
Hmm.
excited about, the things that scare you, all of it. And once you start there and you're able to have these honest prayers, then you're able to kind of move into that surrender that He wants from us. So that way He
Yeah.
can move and He can
Yeah.
work and He'll
Yeah.
open those doors. I always, when I pray about something, I'm always like, Lord, I want you to open like wide whatever door it is that
Yeah.
you want me to walk through and slam shut whatever you don't want me to walk through, because I don't believe that our God like cracks a door open,
Yeah.
right? He's not going to bait us into anything. He wants our surrender. He wants us
Yeah.
to trust Him. And so once I was able to start doing that, where I'm like, okay, God, whatever it is, even if I
Hmm.
don't see the path you want me
Hmm.
on,
Hmm.
I will keep walking it. Um, then He was able to open the door for like friendships in my life that are
Hmm.
really important, and
Hmm.
finding good friends that lead you towards Jesus,
Hmm.
are so important and so vital. I can't at this point in my life, I can't imagine if I didn't have, like two or three friends that I could reach out to at any point and say, I need prayer for this. I need
Hmm.
wisdom for this. you know, um, it just, it's so important. And God created us to be in community. So,
Mhm.
when you're praying for that, you're praying for friendship, you're praying for, like wisdom in motherhood and things like that. Sometimes I feel like he puts different women in our lives to like as an answer to prayer,
Mhm.
as
Yeah.
a way
Yeah.
to help us, like gain the
Yeah.
wisdom we need because we
Yeah.
all have different experiences. We all have strengths, weaknesses, all of that kind of stuff. And being able to kind of be a sounding board with other women is super important because it keeps you kind of balanced when you're
Hmm.
going through different
Hmm.
motherhood journeys, all of that. So, yeah,
Yeah.
so I would say praying about it first, seeking out friendships that are really gonna like point you back to Christ,
Mhm.
and just being willing to go first because when you go first someone can go second.
Mhm.
And I think that's kind of the whole point, right? If we go first in so many different ways, then even if it's hard and awkward and sometimes it can be painful to be vulnerable, but then someone else can go, and
Mhm.
that's where those deep friendships can be formed.
Mhm.
um and that makes motherhood so much easier. It's hard to do. It's hard to be a mom who is alone.
Oh,
And
for sure.
so that's really what I try to encourage people
Yeah.
with. And honestly, there
Wow.
have been situations where I think I know what's next for me.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
it takes like a really good friend to be like, ooh, I've also been praying about this. And I feel this
Hmm.
way. I
Hmm.
feel,
Hmm.
or
Hmm.
whatever, to be able to kind of share that,
Hmm.
um, like their discernment
Hmm.
also is
Hmm.
really important. So, um, yeah, I think that those are just really important parts of kind of finding who you are, like as a mom and as a woman, and
Hmm.
even as a wife, to be able to have like people who are going to be there to hear the good, the bad, the ugly,
Hmm.
and to make sure you're also bringing the good, the bad, the ugly to God as well, because He cares for you in all of it.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah, what I would like to say is that, yeah, how important it is that we do to pray with. Sometimes we can just be like, oh, well, we don't have friends. Oh, no. And go instead of realizing, no, we can take this to God in prayer and He does
Yeah.
care. He does care. And I know in my life, yeah, definitely, I have seen where He's brought people into my life at the times I needed it. And they haven't been there the whole time. They haven't really needed to be. I mean, it would be for a season that I had a certain friend, a certain time, a period of something was going through, and just something, that it was good for that, but maybe it wasn't for the whole season. See, I have the 10 children, and well, let's see. So the youngest is 3, the oldest is 25. It's almost going to be 4 and 26. They're 22 years apart, and their birthdays here at the end of the month. But so this extended period of continuing having children and stuff and meeting different people along the way. And you really maybe connect with someone that at the time that they would have 2 or 3 children. I continue to have children and they have, different journeys and we kind of go separate ways and that's okay. But it's like God does give you what you need at the time when you need it, when you pray. I think when you really cry out, and I've really noticed that. So I think the importance of that and then being willing to let go and realizing this person may not be in your life the whole period, but that's okay. God will send the next one as needed. Right? Have you noticed that for you as well?
Yeah. Oh,
Okay.
absolutely. I think,
Yeah.
that's kind of one of the, I love the book of Exodus. I love reading about the Israelites. I love, um, just like their journey through the wilderness and all of that. And so I've always really resonated like with the fact that God will always give you what you need in
Mhm.
the timing that it is necessary, not necessarily
Oh,
in
wow.
what we think is
Yeah.
our timing, right?
Yeah.
But like the manna always came, whether they wanted
Yeah.
it or not, whether they got sick and tired of it or not, it still always came. God always provided, He always
Yeah.
showed up. And so I I really feel like that's very similar with friends, is that sometimes it's not maybe what you think you need,
Yeah.
but it's there,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
And sometimes, sometimes you're going to be in a season where it feels like there's no one around. And maybe that means that it's a time that you need to really connect with God, because
Hmm.
he is the one true friend. He is the
Yeah,
person who's going
absolutely.
to be there, you know?
Hmm.
And so sometimes I feel like my manna is the Lord. And that
Mm.
is what is going to sustain me until he
Yeah,
brings the next
yeah,
friend along.
yeah,
Um,
exactly.
and
Wow.
it's not easy to remember that always,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
it's true. He's never left me and he never
yeah,
will.
yeah. Oh, wow. Yeah. Can't forget. Oh, I like how you worded that, that he is there and a constant there, but sometimes we can forget if we always have someone else, so maybe he gives it a purpose, like, okay, you need to seek me a bit more here. And then and then, bring another friend into your life or something. Yeah. Oh, that is good. That is good. Uh, what other kind of areas for moms that you find as, can you hit on something else? So that was more like relationships. Is there,
Yeah.
what are them
Yeah.
other
So
areas?
I would say that I've talked a lot. I mean, I'm in the season of motherhood where my kids are all in school.
Okay.
And I
Mhm.
think that once you get to that point, a lot of women go, okay, so what do I do now? Like, if my kids are in school, like, do I go back to work? Do I stay at home?
Mhm. Mhm.
And like, kind of what is what is next for me? And
Mhm.
sometimes
Mhm. Mhm.
sometimes people can kind of start to spiral a little bit about like, do do I need to, like, for example, um, I thought for sure I was going to start being really successful at making sourdough because I had the time and all my friends were doing it. And I was like, oh, I need a hobby. So what am I going to do? I'm going to start making sourdough. Well, my sourdough starter has been in the fridge for, I think, 6 months at this point. It
Mhm.
is long gone. It is long gone. There's
Oh,
no
okay.
sourdough coming out of my house at this point.
Oh no.
Um, and and I think it's just because that's what I thought I was going to find some purpose in.
Mhm.
Like,
Mhm.
I am
Mhm.
going to find a hobby, and that is going to be my purpose. I'm going to go out and like do all these fun things that I see on social media that like influencers are doing now that their kids are in school. They're going to go find all these cute coffee shops to go to and stuff like that. And I very quickly realized that is not what the Lord is calling me to.
Mhm.
Uh, and so,
Mhm.
um, I just, trusting God's timing is never an easy thing. And
Yeah.
I would say that's kind of one of the other big things that I talk about. I talk about friendship. I talk about like God's timing. I talk
Mhm.
about um, like creating boundaries around different people and
Mhm.
how,
Mhm.
um, just because like they are close in proximity doesn't necessarily mean that they get access to your whole life and your family. And God really like entrusted us with like our children, with our spouses, and we have to protect our time and our energy and all of that. And sometimes that means that we need to create more rest, and more capacity to kind of rebalance, recalibrate, I guess, like our family and the culture within our household. And you can't always do that if you're running from point A to point B all the time.
Mhm.
Um, and so that was a pretty common talk that I did over the last year, because I think boundaries can be such a hot button word now.
Mhm.
People just assume with like cancel culture and stuff like that that you can just cut people off and that's fine, but that's really not
Mhm.
necessarily biblical, depending
Mhm.
on the circumstance. We do need to guard our heart and things like that, um, but knowing that boundaries can be created and can be enforced, and it can also be God honoring, um, and reconciliation is obviously always the hope and prayer. But sometimes it's not, sometimes it doesn't work. Sometimes if you're dealing with, people who are non-believers and things like that, it can be kind of hard to learn that balance. So
Mhm.
um yeah, so I would say those are kind of the three big things that I have talked about the most this year. Um, because it seems like there's a lot of people who are trying to figure out who they are as moms, as women, as wives,
Mhm.
um what their purpose is, what, how to not just find your identity in motherhood, but to also
Mm.
find it in Christ. Um, and what it kind of looks like when you're sitting in a season of waiting, and none of that is fun. It's not fun to sit and wait on the Lord, but it's so important for us to be able to do and trust that he ultimately has the best plan for us, and we will never be able to orchestrate the plan that he has without him. So
Wow.
yeah, that's kind of
Okay. That
my big
that
thing.
that's good, but that's a hard balance, I think, though. I mean, especially if you know if you going on like about other things in than life, if you feel God's giving you a dream or a passion on something and you're really wanting to jump right into it, but maybe there's a season, maybe he's giving that to you now to prepare you, but it's not for
Yeah,
this season. So that's what's meaning that it's kind of hard to wait, to trust, and like, okay, great, I want this, but when is your timing? Because I
right.
think I find that a little hard in my own life, things I've done, and I'm like, okay, then I need to do that now. I need to jump. I need to make this happen instead of trusting God and be like, okay, so this is great, but when is this going to happen and rest? Wow, that can be hard balance, but just trusting God, and just so you just, it sounds like you had just mentioned earlier on, spend a lot of time on your knees
Mm-hmm.
praying. So really going to God in prayer. And I guess if you feel like you've jumped ahead on some things, kind of just take a step back, take that moment to pray and be like, okay, like what am I supposed to be doing now? And just, yeah, take that time again to go before God with that, huh?
Right. Yeah. I mean, I feel like so many people try to muscle through everything on their own, and it's just so much, there's so much out of my control. And once I finally kind of got to that point where I realized I was not
Yeah.
actually
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
control,
Yeah.
um, then it made it a lot easier. But obviously, until I got to that point, it was very hard because I was like, God, why? I know you want me to do this, so
Yeah.
why is this not working? Why is this not
Why is it
happening
not turning out the way I
right
thought it
now?
would? Because
And
sometimes when he
yeah,
gives
and
us
that
things that, we have our view of, oh, so it's going to be like this, it's going to work out like this, but his is maybe a little is different. I'm
right,
quite
right.
reminded of
It's
the
not
verse.
always we're going from point A to point B.
Yeah,
Sometimes it's like I want you to go to C, D, E, F, G before you get to
yeah,
point B.
that's right.
Um,
Yeah, I'm reminded of
and
the
it's just
verse
a
that he
process.
says, "My ways are not your ways, and my thoughts are not your thoughts." Right? So
Yeah.
it's like,
Yeah, I think I had written on my mirror for probably 3 or 4 years,
mhm,
2 Corinthians 12:10, that says like, for when I'm weak, I am strong. And I just had to trust that, like,
mhm,
okay, God, whatever the weaknesses are in me, I have to trust that you're going to use whatever you see fit
mhm,
to connect with people, to, build something in me that you see that clearly I'm not seeing. But if you see it and you know it needs to be used, then just trying to find some joy in that journey of growing and becoming, you know, I think once I hit 30, I was really surprised at how many things there were so many things in my 20s that I worried about that kind of melted off once I turned
oh,
30, because
okay,
I was like, these aren't really things that I need to worry about, because at
yeah.
this point, God has carried me through so many things, you know?
Okay. Yeah.
So,
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Yeah, no, that's understandable. But at the time you don't know, right? What you don't know, and it's
right,
really hard to really release that and just to surrender. But that is one of the biggest things that we have to learn to do in this life. It's a daily thing, is surrendering the unknown, and just trust, to be able to trust and rest in the one that does know, the one that is holding it, because there's so many unknowns in our motherhood and just in the future and what life is going to look like and all, for our kids, for us, but just surrendering and resting and trusting. And that's how we have the peace. And so you mentioned you helping women with peace, finding peace and purpose. So can you kind of, how do we help you? How do you help them find that peace and
right.
trusting in God?
Yeah. So a lot of it is kind of giving practical tools, as far as like your quiet time doesn't have to be in the morning, right?
Hmm. Okay.
Like I
Yeah.
I always try to
Yeah.
point people to prayer and things like that. But I think sometimes women think that this means you have to wake up before your children with your, cup of coffee or tea and like sit quietly with the Bible. But if you have littles under, especially like 5, sometimes that's not possible,
Mm-hmm,
and so
mm-hmm,
it's really finding those pockets of time. God doesn't need a special time of day to talk to you and to
mm-hmm,
listen to you, right? It can be in the car, it can be, if you're taking a shower, it can be any of those times where you're like, God, I am setting aside this time to just connect with you, to clear my thoughts, and to let you speak however you need to speak to me today. And I think having those, even if they're like little times throughout the day, being able to be like aware of the things that he is doing for you, setting in motion for you, whether you necessarily like notice it or not. There's certain things where I'll be like, oh, thank you, Lord. Like I see that you did this. I see that
mm-hmm,
you're,
mm-hmm,
doing, and it doesn't have to be this big extravagant thing. There are definitely times where I am like fervently praying for something, and that I set aside time for. And especially now that my kids are older, I can do that. But when I had 3 under 6, it was
mm-hmm,
not easy to like wake up before them when 2 of them weren't sleeping through the night,
yeah, yeah,
And so I think that just knowing that it doesn't have to be a specific time of day,
mm-hmm,
right? God is always ready and willing to listen to you, and to speak to you. And
mm-hmm,
so starting with that. And then, as far as your purpose goes, the more you chase after him, the more you are trying to align your heart with the Lord's heart, the more you're going to kind of see what your next step is supposed to be. And it's not, I mean, it's so easy for me to say that. It's so hard to actually like walk that out sometimes.
mm-hmm,
And so I really try to make it clear that I don't mean that if you pray about it, like everything is going, like the fog will clear and you will be like, oh, this is my purpose. Sometimes God literally will give you one day at a
mm-hmm,
time things to
mm-hmm,
do. And sometimes that means he's going to bring people into your life. Sometimes that means he's going to bring opportunities or experiences or things to kind of get you
mm-hmm,
to the place he wants you to be. Um, but you really, as long as you're aligning your heart with the Lord's and you're chasing after God,
mm-hmm,
I don't think you can find the wrong purpose. Like he longs to be close to you, and
mm-hmm.
when you are close to him, you're gonna align.
Yeah,
And so I think it's
yeah,
just a matter of
yeah,
like trusting his timing
yeah,
and really surrendering to the fact that there are times, seasons of life where you're not going to know what's next and you're
yeah,
going to feel like you're walking blindly. And that's okay because he will not let you fail.
yeah. Oh, I like that.
So,
Yeah, and when we chase after God, then working on seeking Him and not really chasing after the
right.
stream or your passions, but chasing after God. And and then your heart should align with His, and the direction should then be there. Yeah, but keep praying for His direction and guidance. I was gonna ask, is there a certain verse that has really spoke to you?
Well, I think I had mentioned it earlier, but the Second Corinthians 12:10,
Okay,
for when I'm weak, then I am strong.
okay, okay. Yeah,
Yeah, I think that verse has really stuck with me just because it's a good reminder that like he can find strength within your weaknesses,
yeah,
right? Like we get our strength from the Lord. And sometimes that means we have to be vulnerable for him to create those
yeah.
experiences. And then that becomes a strength.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I think sometimes the Lord is just so gracious to allow us to go through some of the things that we go through.
Mm-hmm.
Um, because even in the moment, obviously, we can't see it, we don't understand it, we don't know why God would let us go through some of these things. But then once you're past it, and once you are able to kind of look back and see the way that God has used it, then you're able to see that this really is a strength. This is something that God, in his kindness, allowed me to endure,
Mm-hmm.
so that way someone else can feel less alone. And that is such a powerful thing. It has
Wow.
been in my life.
Wow, that is so good when we can see these things that they really were an instrument for good that he allowed us to walk through. Now we can help someone else where we wouldn't have been able to. Now we have the empathy for someone else that we wouldn't have been able had, you
Mhm.
know. Wow, that's a good way to be able to see it. Well, this has been a really fun conversation with you and your journey and how you're helping mothers. Would you like to pray for the moms that will be listening to this, and what would be your prayer for them?
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Father God, I just thank you for these moms and women who are listening to this podcast. Lord, you know what they need to hear, you know what they're walking through, God. And I just pray that you help them to learn to surrender and just trust, whether it's your timing or friendship or just their motherhood journey. God, I thank you that you are always a provider. You are always giving us what we need, whether we understand it or not. And God, I just thank you that you help us to be confident in our faith with you and know that we don't have to come to you with perfect, clean lives for you to use us, God. And I just thank you for all of the ways that you do choose to use us in our stories and that you are always near. I thank you for this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Amen. He is always near us, even when we sometimes don't feel it. Yes. Well, thank you so
Absolutely.
much. Thank you so much,
Yes. Thank
Ashley. And
you.
yeah, all the best to all that you're doing to help other
Thank
women.
you.
All
Yes.
right. I'll
You as
take
well.
care. And yeah,
Yep.
everyone, I'll be back another week for another Mighty Monday.